Hi, I'm here today to show you how to take this plain Jane Altoids tin and finish the top and the inside. So it'll be decorative and you have a nice little like sewing kit if you wanted it. Alright, materials that you're going to need. First, you're going to want your instructions for your standard size Altoids tin and the accompanying templates page that goes with it. For the exterior or the top, you'll want your stitched piece that you have done. You'll want another piece of 3x4 inch mat board and 3 pieces, each measuring 3x4 inches of the lightweight batting. For the top to be used with the linen, we'll be doing a little bit of a running stitch and such, lacing. I like to use the Coats & Clark's button and craft thread, a little heavier weight to deal with that linen, so you don't have to fear it breaking. Optional for finishing, if you do not want this red edge, or let's say you had the wintergreen Altoids as opposed to the cinnamon, and it's blue along the edge, you don't want that to show. I have optional instructions that you will use that needs a 2x14 inch piece of cotton fabric to cover that up and coordinate it with it. In case I haven't said it, you will be needing tacky glue for both the inside and the outside. You'll be needing also some cording, 20 inches of the finished cording products, which you'll be needing to go around the edge of the linen piece when we put it on the top of the tin. It closes up the gaps. You can make your own cording, which is what I have done, or you can do my mother's preferred method, and that is to go to her fabric store and she purchases it pre-made. So whichever your preference is, both are good. Hi, okay, here we go. We're going to do the top of our Altoids tin, get that covered. First thing you'll need is your template page, and we're going to cut out along the inside of the black line the standard size Altoids tin top. And we're going to trace the top onto the mat board side piece. Pencil. There we go. Using our paper cutting scissors, we are going to cut out the pattern shape on the mat board. Again, on the inside of our pencil line. Okay. If it helps with the curved edges, cut the straight all the way across, and then that way you can come in and cut that curved line. It makes it just a little easier. So that gives us our mat board shape for the size there. Is take your 3 pieces of batting, 1, 2, 3, and our standard size Altoids tin paper pattern there. You're going to cut the batting to that shape, and using our fabric cutting scissors, we'll cut that out. So I now have 3 batting pieces cut to the shape that I need. Okay, you're going to take your stitched piece. You're going to take your template. It's getting a lot of work going on here, and we're going to center that on top of our stitched piece. Okay, let's see how I've centered it on here. Looking through the opposite side, I can see that it's centered. Okay, so you get that centered on there. Going to trim it up. Directions say leave approximately an inch beyond your border for stitching. It looks about like I've got that. We'll definitely want to curve up those corners. So let's start with kind of trimming the corners up. I might shave a little bit off that side. Depends on how big a piece you've got of linen when you stitched it. Some of you might have bigger. Larger. All right, our next step is to stitch a running stitch 1/4 of the inch from the edge. Okay, this is being used for gathering. This is where I am using the button and craft thread, the heavier thread, using it on the linen, and I'm going to do the running stitch as the directions said, about 1/4 of an inch in from the edge. So, okay, I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's where my running stitch is. Okay, and just continue that all the way around until you meet back up at the beginning. All right. So I've got my running stitch in. If you can, hopefully you can see it. It's gone all the way around. Okay, step 7, we're going to lay our 3 batting pieces in our mat board onto the back side of our linen piece. So stack those up. That's our 3 batting on top of our mat board. And then we're going to take the linen piece, wrong side facing up, take the stack of mat and batting, put matting side to the back of our stitched piece, making sure, looking on the front, that they are centered. You can't just slide it, you got to kind of pick it up, so that's all centered on there. I don't know if you can kind of see that, how the design is centered on there. Okay. And then we're going to go to step 8. We're going to take our thread, our running stitch, and we're going to that over so you can see what happens. We're going to draw our running stitch so that it gathers it all up. Okay, so let me just kind of do that up here. Okay. This is why we use the craft and button thread, or button and craft thread, because it is a little sturdier for this. Okay. Then what we are going to do, so we can smooth out the corners and the edges of our piece, is we're going to lace it. You can kind of see what I'm doing there. Now before we get too much further, we should flip it over to the other side and make sure, yep, see, moved a little bit, so I'm not quite centered. So before we get it too tight, we can move our linen around on top of our pieces. There we go. And so it's looking a little bit better. It's a little off here because we haven't laced it at the top, but we're going to fix that. So there we go. So we have our cushioned top, so if you needed to, you can use it as a pin cushion if you so choose on your topper. Okay, and it's centered, looking good, nice and straight. Okay, so here we come to here's step 10. Here's your optional part. Do you want to hide those edges? I'm going to go ahead and go over the directions on how to do that. Part A, we've cut our cotton fabric. It's 2 inches by 14 inches. You're then going to take a 14-inch piece of stitch witchery. You're going to take your cotton fabric and you're going to fold one of the long sides over about 3/8 of an inch. Press that, and then take your, you'll go to step C and bond all in place with the stitch witchery. Again, you're going to take your short end, I'd press it over about 3/8 of an inch again, and use your piece of stitch witchery to bond all of that in place. So now what we want to do is take our 10, place our the piece, doesn't really matter right now where, or at least we don't have to center it, but I do want you to place it right along that curved, that rolled metal edge, the silver one there. Place it right along through there, all the way around. What we're doing is we're checking for their fit. Because I know I cut the fabric too big, and we want to size it down a little bit now. I want to make sure we had enough room. So where they meet, you can see we've got our overlap going here. There you go, overlap. So we want to trim down that short edge on the raw edge. Make sure you're using the raw one and not your finished. I'd say about a 1/2 inch of an overlap is sufficient. We're going to go ahead and we're going to check the fit on the top too. As I said, I've cut the piece bigger than we needed it, just a little bit. And we want to make sure, because we'll be laying this top down, and that's going to be way too wide for us. It's going to leave too much puckering. It's going to be hard to work with. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece and we're going to cut about 3/8 of an inch. We're going to cut that off out as well. Okay. And remember, you want to trim that 3/8 of an inch off your raw edge, not your finished edge. Okay. All right, so we've got our piece all trimmed up, bonded, everything's looking good. We're going to take our tin and our tacky glue, and we are going to put that glue all along the edges. I'll show you here. Raise that up, right along the edges there of the box, okay? And then we're going to take, I like to start with my finished edge, place it where I want it to be at the end of all of this. So place that, I do the hinged area in the back, and I like to place it right in the middle between those two hinged. You're taking your finished edge and you're placing it right along that rolled silver edge like we did when we were checking for the fit. Okay. Right along in through there, and I like to, as I do a little bit, I like to press it and smooth it out, make sure everything's good. Go around those corners, place it for the long side again, and then smooth those edges over, making sure it's placed right up along that rolled silver metal edge. Go. Oops, and see it moved a little bit, so now I haven't gotten too far. I can go in, I can move that in, slide that into place. Okay. There we go. And you can see then we're going to take our finished edge, bring it up, and it brought the glue with it. It's drying that quick. So I'm going to put just a little bit more on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my raw edge down now. There we go. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on my finished side, just a little, and overlap that onto the raw edge side. Okay. If there's any excess glue that comes off, wipe that away. There you go. And so we've got, you can see our edges are going to be nice and covered and going to look really nice. Okay. Then what I want to do is take my tacky glue and I want to put it all along the edge of our top and going in a little bit onto the lid as well. I'll show you here what I've done. If you want to just cover the lid, that works too. I think that's what I'm going to do. Just cover that up. There we go. Won't make too much of a difference as we will be putting, we're going to need that for the top anyhow. Alright, so let's start with my corners and I'm going to lay them in. There we go. Okay, so there we go. I laid my corners in a little bit and now I'm going to work from the corner out, kind of, and laying the rest of that fabric, trying to make sure it lays nice and flat, not too puckery. I'm going to make sure those edges stay up against the rolled area there. There we go, and just kind of working with it, making it get down there. As you can see, that edge isn't going to stick down, that finished edge. So we just take a little bit more glue, put it on there. See how I did that, both sides. And then we just lay that down and it'll glue itself up. Just checking my edges, making sure that all my finished edge stayed along the rolled middle piece. You can see I got a little bit there that's not, so I'm just working it back into place. There we go. And you can see how that's done along through there and how the top is looking. Not too worried. This is all going to get covered up when we put the topper on. Okay. Now remember, this was optional. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. Moving back into the main part of the instructions for the top, we're on 11. You're going to put glue on the back of your mat board and linen piece. Glue on the back of this one. That way we know where the glue is in the area that we want it to. Make sure you get it close to your edges. If you have to, take some of your scrap mat board and you can use that to move all that in place. So we'll go ahead and do that. So you can see I started with my edges and I got all along in through those edges. Put up close, and now I'm just going to kind of dab in through there and get on the inside of it. Alright, so you can see I pretty much got a lot of glue on in there. Cap that off. Okay. You place the glue side down on your 10. Now please remember, orientation is a nice thing. Put the back facing away from you and take your stitched piece, decide which direction you want it to go. So you can see how I've got that. And I want the stem facing to my right with the way this is oriented. And press it down. Okay. And look at that. Looking good. Best part for here is to get that glue to really dry nice and firmly in place with your piece. Get a nice heavy book. Put the weight on there and wait. A good 24 hours is a good indicator, at least overnight or such, so that the glue really gets a chance to dry and adhere that onto the place where you want it to. Okay, we're back. I went ahead and I let this dry overnight with the heavy books on top. That way the glue is nice and secure. Everything's in place. So we're moving on to the next step, which is 14. We're going to run a bead of tacky glue around the edge where our needlework meets the 10. So it's right along, pointer, right along in through here. We're going to run a bead of tacky glue all the way around. So go ahead and do that. There we go. And this is to attach the cording that we made while this was drying. Okay, and we're going to take our cording. I like to put the opening towards me so you can see when it opens up, it's opening towards me. I am going to start, so with this opening part, I am going to start over here in this, if it's facing you, this would be your left-hand corner, and that's where I'll start running it around, leaving a tail of about 2 or 3 inches, depending on how it goes. So you can see I'm putting it around the outside edge, laying it in place. There we go. So you can see this is where we are at. These are meeting here in the corner. Nice and snug. And the purpose of this cording was to make it, give it that more finished look. Fills in that gap of where everything was meeting. The glue does dry clear, so it's not a problem if there's a little bit showing that's on there. There we go. Now once this is dried, what we'll do is we can tie this. It's a little short for me to tie into a bow, but I can tie it into a little knot and then it'll hang out like that. Okay. Okay, so this is dried, and I went ahead and you can see where I tied the knot to join that little corner. And I have, let me even those up, tied a knot at the ends of my cording and clipped them so we have a nice little thing. And there we go. Your top is done. Good job.